朋友，大家好，欢迎收看今天的新风视线。12月17日，蔚来的创始人、董事长兼 CEO 的李斌，用一场长达14小时的直播再次登上了热搜。他用一场不间断的直播证明，蔚来明年即将上市的超长续航电池包，在行驶了1044公里之后，仍然剩余电量3%。李斌称，这一电池是目前全球量产的能量密度最高的电池。而这一电池包是由蔚来自行研发的，电芯来自于蔚蓝新能源。早在2020年，蔚来就曾经发布了这一电池包的消息，3年之后，这一电池包终于落地。而就在蔚来用一款所谓遥遥领先的电池包证明自己实力的同时，我们可以看到，最近1个月的汽车圈，不少车企都在主打自研电池。比如12月12日，广汽集团自研自产的 P58 微晶超能电芯下线，旗下的英派电池智能工厂也同时宣布竣工。同一天，脱胎于长城汽车的蜂巢能源举办了第4届电池日，宣布全面发力短刀电池和快充。12月14日，极客汽车则举办了能源日活动，发布首款自研电池，叫做金砖电池。还有此前的广州车展上，长安汽车则发布了自己的电池品牌金钟罩。9月底，一则招标信息显示，奇瑞汽车也在开展电池项目。在经历了去年的缺芯贵电的冲击之后，今年电动车车企都掀起了自研电池的热潮，卷向了新的高度。其实，在最近这波自研电池热潮之前，也有不少车企发布过关于自研电池的消息，比如去年哪吒发布了自研的天宫电池，长城发布了大禹电池，上汽发布魔方电池，吉利发布神盾电池等等。一个共同的特点是，此前车企们发布的自研电池的消息，大部分是聚焦在电池系统层面，而最近几家举办电池发布会的企业，则是从电芯就开始了自研乃至自产。比如说，广汽自研的 P58 微晶超能电芯，从明年开始将在英派电池工厂量产，而极客的金砖电池，从电芯到电池包全部由极客自研，生产这一电池的工厂则是吉利的子公司。长安的电池品牌金钟罩则计划在2030年推出8款自研电芯。至于蔚来，虽然此次登上热搜的超长续航电池包电芯仍然来自于外采，但是蔚来此前也曾有过独立自研自产电芯的规划，甚至组建了超过800人的电池研发团队。那么为什么车企现在突然之间都要自己来研发电池了呢？有2句车企界的大佬的话，一听就明白了。一句是广汽集团董事长曾庆红所说的，他说电池成本攀升，广汽就是在给宁德时代打工。另外一句则是长安汽车董事长朱华荣给出的数据，他指出电池太贵，导致单车成本增加5000至35000元。前2年电池价格的疯狂上涨，对各大车企的发展都产生了巨大影响。但是今年以来，碳酸锂的价格在经历跌跌不休之后，下降到了10万元一吨左右。今年前3季度，动力电池的价格也同比下降了40%，但是特定型号、特定设计的高品质电池仍然存在局部短缺的情况。而另一方面，对于车企而言，自研电池无疑更加有利于自己在成本控制上掌握主动权。广汽集团表示，成本我说了算的底气从哪里来？必须自己做电池、做电机。汽车企业竞争力提升的关键就在于控制成本。当然，除了成本之外，不少车企之所以自研电池，还有更长远的考量。如果电池部门未来发展成功，以后可以将电池部门单独分拆上市，这也是不少车企的共同想法。业内人士表示，在中国内卷文化的背景下，一些电动车的研发周期为20至24个月，甚至有些电动车都开始卷12到18个月了。而当车企都在卷更快的迭代速度时，那么研发的每一个环节都必须要加速。具体到电池环节，如果电池新品从研发到投产全部可以内部解决，那么上车的周期必然将大幅缩短。当然，对于车企而言，自研电池固然有着诸多优势，但是与电池企业合作依然是更多车企的选择，因为自研电池之路并不简单。从成立至今，蜂巢能源一直处于亏损状态，并且亏损的幅度不断扩大。而蔚来汽车也经常被作为例子来证明车企自研电池的艰难。蔚来 CEO 李斌在12月14号表示，长期来看，自研电池可以改善毛利，但是短期的确很难。 而自研电池的投入有多大呢？几组数据可见一斑。广汽曾经发布公告称，鹰派电池的首期投资为109亿元，相当于它2022年全年利润加上2023年上半年利润的总和。而吉利汽车2019年至今在电池方面投资已经超过1000亿元，其中自建电池厂的投资累计超过700亿。按照麦肯锡的估算，车企的新能源车型销量要达到50万辆，自产的电芯才可能具备成本优势。因此，目前宣布自研电池的企业都集中在头部电动车品牌上。事实上，虽然如今宣布自研电池的车企越来越多，但是依然没有一家车企计划在电池供应上完全实现自研自产。广汽早就表示，其电池供应会采取自研加上外购多条腿走路的方式，这也是大部分大陆车企现在的共同选择。因此，在自建电池产能的同时，他们与头部电池企业的合作也在不断的加码。2021年，长城汽车与宁德时代签署了长达10年的战略合作协议。今年，奇瑞在加快自研电池的同时，也与宁德时代加强了合作。宁德时代的钠电池将会率先在奇瑞车型上搭载。今年，广汽与宁德时代的合资公司时代广汽也开始2期扩能建设。这种一边自研一边外采、多条腿走路的模式的背后，也与电池产业的特殊性质有关。在现有的材料体系内，动力电池领域存在一个28原则，意思就是电池价值和难度的20%在研发环节，80%在生产制造环节。汽车是偏机械加工的行业，电池则是化学与机械结合的行业，两者技术并不相同，底层的商业逻辑也不一样。再加上不同车型对电池的要求不尽相同，专业的电池厂商可以投入更多的资源来更迭技术。在12月14号极客金砖电池发布会后的采访当中，当媒体询问起金砖电池对比宁德时代电池的优势时，极客并没有直接回答这一问题。而对于自研电池的成本问题，不管是广汽还是极客都没有透露具体的数字。蜂巢能源的董事长兼 CEO 杨红星曾经无奈地说，整个电池行业都非常卷，绝大部分电池上市公司的老总都提到过增收不增利，也就是说销量增长了，收入却下滑了。对于专业的电池企业而言，如今的发展尚且盈利艰难，那么对于自研自产电池的车企来说，挑战或许才刚刚开始。以上就是今天新风事件的全部内容，感谢您的收看，这里是华尔街电视，如果喜欢记得点赞并且订阅我们的频道，我们下期节目再见。
大家好，我是华尔街电视的小安，为大家主持一档新的节目《亚洲大眼睛》。什么样的内容，您慢慢看就知道了。日本通过新法引进更多外国劳工，以解决国内劳动力短缺问题。批评者就认为，新法将会影响日本社会凝聚力，而且不能保障劳工权利。安倍晋三领导的日本联合政府11月7日成功促成一项有争议的新法，允许数十万外国劳工进入日本，以缓解日本劳工短缺问题。那在新的体系下，日本政府计划引入最多可达 34.5 万外国蓝领工人，让他们进入建筑、食品服务、护理行业等领域。在这个 1.27 亿人口的单一民族国家，移民问题一直都很敏感。但是随着日本人口的缩减和老化，对外国劳工需求的压力增大。那尽管批评者认为新法既没有充分考虑它对日本社会的影响，也没有很好的保护外国劳工的权利，但法案在11月通过下议院审批之后，现在又得到了上议院的许可。那新系统对劳工签证设置了2种类型。第一种类型允许非熟练技术工人获得5年签证，但他们不能携带家属。另一种类型签证给熟练技术工人，他们需要通过日语测试，可以申请长期居住，可以携带家属，逐渐的还可以申请入籍。日本已经设立了针对主要来自亚洲国家的26万劳工的技术培训项目，这个项目被批评滥用劳工培训。日本反对派议员有田芳生认为，技术培训项目上的问题层出不穷，在没有进行反思之前，不应该匆匆忙忙地创建新系统。 那日本的失业率为 2.5% 左右，劳动力市场紧张，首相安倍晋三一直在设法帮助企业找到工人。不过他坚持认为新法并不等同于移民政策，在他所领导自民党内部，保守派们担心外国人会带来犯罪和社会分化。那究竟这些外国劳工哪里来呢？11月28日，印度尼西亚人力部和日本技协力事业团 JICA 在印尼首都雅加达举办了首届印尼日本联合人力资源论坛。在这个有包括印尼政府官员及来自汽车制造、旅游和护理业日本代表200多人参与的论坛上，双方共同宣布了上述消息。印尼人力部部长富奇亚就表示，印尼正处于人口增长高峰期，15到64岁之间工作适龄人口就业压力巨大，而日本是印尼人，尤其年轻一代印尼人有兴趣工作的目的地。那作为协议的一部分，印尼人力部希望未来5年内将7万的印尼外劳作为日本特定技能签证计划的适用者派遣到日本工作，另外3万名印尼外劳则以其他方式派遣。双方还同意共同构造一个平台，在公共和私营部门之间交流就业相关消息，并为印尼人提供技能和日语培训。日方还计划向印尼公立学校提供日语教材，帮助后者开设日文必修课。当地媒体就称，印尼人口已逾 2.7 亿，高居世界第4。尽管经济增长率稳定在 5% 左右，但年轻人的失业率居高不下。外劳输出方面滞后于菲律宾等东南亚邻国。长期以来，印尼一直希望向中东、香港和韩国等外劳引进大户成批输出外劳，那既缓解国内就业压力，又开辟侨汇这一稳定的外汇收入来源。那另一方面，日本由于人口出生率长期低迷，老龄化现象严重，劳动力短缺问题积重难返。JICA 一项研究就显示，至2040年，日本将需要引进约670万的外劳，约为现在的4倍，以填补国内劳动力数量下滑的缺口。那日本厚生劳动省数据就显示，截至2022年10月，日本约有180万外籍劳工，其中印尼外劳77889人，继越南、中国、菲律宾、巴西、尼泊尔后位居第6，但印尼外劳增长率高达 47.5%， 是主要国家中增速最快的。那正因如此，日本政府对和印尼达成这项协议寄托厚望。论坛召开时，为日本驻印尼大使，如今已经改任驻华大使的金山宪治表示，让印尼人力资源在日本社会发挥积极作用是一项皆大欢喜的安排，两国社会问题都可由此得到解决。那日经新闻也指出，日本内阁并未仅仅将外劳这张牌压在印尼一国身上。11月底，越南国家主席吴文赏访问日本，日本首相岸田文雄就曾表示，引进越南人力资源对日本社会经济发展至关重要。那长期以来日本一直标榜所谓文化同质国家属性，对引进外劳和外国移民持消极的态度。不但外籍移民、劳工，就连少数族裔的阿伊努人、琉球人和定居数代之久的朝韩人，也往往被社会和职场打入另册。2007年，慕尼黑马克西米利安大学学者沃克特就曾撰文指出，替代移民对于日本政治家而言是禁忌话题，无法从这个角度有意义的探讨解决劳动力短缺问题。然而，随着日本老龄化趋势的深化，形势逆转了。2010年，日本人口达到 1.281 亿，峰值；2022年则已下降至 1.257 亿，预计2030年至 1.191 亿，2070年更将下降至 0.87 亿。同时，作为世界上老龄化程度最严重的国家，日本2022年人口中64岁以上占比高达 28.7%， 预计2070年将升至 38.7%。与此同时，日本2022年生育率降至历史最低的 1.26， 年出生人口仅77万0747人，自1899年后首次跌破80万。1993年劳动适龄人口达到峰值8700万后逐年萎缩，预计2040年将出现1100万劳动力短缺。那鉴于此，日本内阁近年来不断呼吁增加生育率，但收效甚微。 2023年日本议会开幕时，首相岸田文雄就大声疾呼，称由于出生率、人口和劳动力的迅速下降，日本正处于社会功能失调边缘。在这种情况下，谈论引进外劳、开放移民政策，不但不再是禁忌，甚至成为一种潮流。那搜狐文章就写到，正是在这一背景下，1993年设立被全球职场界称作世界上最不友好外劳政策的日本外国人技能实习制度 JITCO， 在2017年11月被相对宽松的关于外国人技能实习的正确实施及技能实习生保护的相关法律技能实习法所取代。外国技术工人引进流程被简化。2019年4月，日本再度扩大外劳签证计划，允许 34.5 万外劳在5年内进入日本，其中低技术外劳允许停留5年，高技术外劳停留无期限。2023年2月，日本内阁批准了法务省提出的新签证制度提案，以吸引高收入者和高价值毕业生。4月，政府开始讨论一项促进日本和外国学生出国留学交流的提案草案。那其中包括了为后者提供兼职工作机会和居留途径。与此同时，司法部的一个小组发布了一份提案草案，建议废除备受争议的技术实习计划。该草案呼吁建立一个新的制度来保障长期工人和短期工人的安全，同时尊重外劳的人权。那根据外交政策杂志引述日本东京昭和女子大学商学教授八代赏红的研究数据指出，2022年日本境内外籍移民数量约近300万，是1990年的3倍。在20多岁的东京居民中，1/10在外国出生的，而在诸如北海道中部、古冠村或群马县、大泉等地，外籍人口占比已超过 15%。在大阪和京都以东的三重县，外劳的输入扭转了该地多年人口净流失的趋势。该研究就预计，未来5年，外籍员工将占日本高技能劳动力净增长的 40%。那和印尼的协议表明了这一趋势还在扩大。一些专家就将大规模移民视为日本劳动力萎缩、人口老龄化和国内消费下降的最后一刻解决方案。还有人建议，日本可以效仿加拿大等成功的依赖移民的国家，制定每年流入100万移民的目标，以抵消人口下降的影响。那加拿大亚太基金会东北亚区域高级项目经理哈里森和著名日本人口社会学家佐久堂桃子在一篇联合撰写的论文中就指出，日本内阁曾公开预测2040年日本每年需要引进 64.7 万的适龄外劳，才能填补国内劳动力短缺的空白。但2018年至2020年，该国引进外劳总数分别仅为11万5千、13万8千和8万5千人，差距显然过大。许多分析家就指出，日本企业和职场，尤其最缺乏劳动力的中小企业和服务业等低技术行业，对引进外劳有各种繁苛的名额比例限制，且越是这样的企业和行业，对低端外劳越歧视。而令人啼笑皆非的是，就在12月12日，执政的自民党根据内阁专家小组的强烈建议，继续维持外籍研究生3年内不得跳槽的极富争议性规定。这项规定已经引发诸多外劳强烈不满，他们指出，这令其在本就困难重重的日本职场处于更加弱势的地位。即日本雇主刻意凭借研究生制度对他们予以要求，而他们就连惹不起、躲得起的权利都被制约。鉴于非高技术工种的研修生滞留只能5年，3年不得跳槽，意味着他们在日本工作的时间 60% 都不得自主。那很显然，对于许多外劳而言，日本人很难被视作一个易就业的劳务输出理想目的地。谢谢大家，这就是本期的亚洲大眼睛，希望听到您的意见，留言在节目下方。
Definitely not the opinions of. I don't know what the opinions of the board. I am just a facilities manager here. Gotcha. I've been here pre-COVID, kind of husband the building through all the protests start just down the street at the mayor's office. For a long period with the Black Lives Matters and other things going on, we had all the marches. So I basically just stayed here to protect the building and work with the owner.
Do you mind if I ask, protect the building from what exactly?
Well, I was always nervous. We have a lot of glass. And I was always nervous someone might throw something through the windows, like a Molotov cocktail, or, there was a lot of
You're talking about 2020 or just constantly?
Yeah, well, no, we are graffitied quite a bit, and the people who oppose the museum do really strange things, but they do, they've graffitied, they've left banners, anyway, they've staged, big demonstrations in front of the museum. But my point was just to make sure someone was on site in case, something like a fiery object would come through a window, that kind of thing.
I see.
So I kind of ended up husbanding the building along and through all that turmoil, because everything again starts down here because all of our courts and our mayor's office is just south of here.
Right.
Okay.
So then, do you mind if I get a little bit more background about how you got into the husbanding of the Museum of Chinese in America, and what it is that maybe brought you into understand? I imagine you probably have a deep understanding of Chinese culture. How did that?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
I just happened to be, I'm an ex-performer, and I just happened to be running events down at the China Institute just by having different contacts in the business. And Nancy, the CEO at the time, found me in an event down there and liked whatever I was doing and brought me here to do events. But then COVID came, and there were very few people who wanted to come into the office. I was the only person that felt the obligation to come in and, take care of the space. So that's what happened.
I see. So then you also, I'm sure, know that this picket has been going on for 2 years now, right?
Yes.
So then over the course of the 2 years, have you got any sort of understanding of what the demands of the picketers are and what their critique of the museum is?
Yes. I mean, the demands have changed. There are different groups involved. There was first the Chinatown Art Brigade, and I never understood what their situation was. The big point was that Nancy was able to get this grant from the de Blasio administration to help to buy the building and then to expand it into a complete Chinese museum with a community center. There was going to be a genealogical center. There was going to be a theater. There was going to be 2 floors for education, a cooking floor. She's developed this, and they've designed this with Maya Lin. And you know who Maya is, right?
No, I don't actually.
Well, she's a very famous Chinese architect designer who, on a blind contest years ago, back in my day, she was awarded the design of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, the big, beautiful black glass wall with the names of all the people who've died in Vietnam. So she's quite well known, and they worked very closely together, and also with R.A., who designed the African American Museum in D.C. to design a whole new museum. Now, there was Balong, I'm busy right now. Nice seeing you, brother. Have some tea. Sorry, you'll have to cut that.
Sure, yeah.
But it became very political. Okay, so our local borough president, Gail Brewer, and Margaret Chin, who was our city council representative at that time, managed to get Nancy to de Blasio. And because de Blasio was looking for some community groups to give money to soften the blow of having this new jail construction down the street.
To soften the blow of...
Well, right. The Chinese, especially in Chinatown, feel very marginalized, and that nobody looks out after their interests. Because there's been a jail down the street since 1735. Mm-hmm. And
that's the Tombs?
The Tombs, yeah. And they are now deconstructing the Tombs, and they're going to build another probably far too large jail there. Or that's the dream, of the city's dream. I'm not, I don't know enough about it to know one way or another. Sure. But a lot of Chinatown feels that the jail is going to to impact badly on them. So there's that. And that's a Chris Marte issue. And Christopher is really the person behind the protests. It's his staff. Now, Yolanda, I don't think it's an official member of his staff, but they're the ones driving this. So basically, they're always said they weren't being paid, but they are being paid. They're actively on Christopher Marte's staff, and they come out 3 or 4 times a week to.
Sorry, who is Christopher Marte again? He's a councilman?
He's our council person. Hold on one second. He just got reelected. This is Christopher.
So you're also telling me that Christopher Marte pays his staff to turn up to protests outside of your building?
Absolutely.
And what is he trying to achieve with these protests?
We don't know. That is my big question, is what is his end game? He comes out himself. I mean, I've got pictures of him. We all have pictures of him, and we have many pictures of the protesters. And again, I
think you might have a picture of me, actually. I think I might have seen you take a picture of me on Friday, maybe.
Were you the one taking the pictures out there?
I was taking a video
I thought you were Max Deutsch. I don't know if you know Max. If you go on LinkedIn, I looked you up while you were standing outside. I thought that was you.
I am not Max Deutsch. I'm Henry Wallace.
Henry?
Yeah.
All right, well, I stand mistaken.
No worries. So you're saying that this protest is not representative of Chinatown, and it's representative of a council members paid. You're saying that
there are
paid
two.
Protesters?
That's our belief. They sign in, they sign out religiously. I was on the wall out there. I was a security guard for over a year, and just greeted them every morning. Was there with them for 3 hours and said goodbye when they left. And this infuriated them. And so they defamed me terribly. They put out this big, on their social media that...
Yeah, this is Hyperallergic, the article where they alleged that you grabbed a protester and made her cry and told her not to cry. That's right? That's an intense story. But
I didn't grab her, but no, I have video. I was just sitting down. I was sitting down and I said... Well, they were talking about different things. They were talking about the workers who were doing the overnight health care. I kind of agreed with that. Lamb was there, the fella from and I definitely agreed with almost everything they said. But then when he started talking about the restaurant, I then said, well, I'm sorry that your restaurant has gone under, but I said, there are thousands of hospitality jobs available right now. Why don't your guys just get other jobs? Well, it was like a bomb went off. She started screaming at me. Have you ever been a waiter or a bartender? And she basically backed into me, almost sat in my lap. And that's when I just got up and went over. And they were just screaming at me, and they were effing me and giving me their middle fingers. And that's when I just said, I didn't know what to do. But it was, callous of me. I agree.
Sure.
But we have to go on now. I just simply went in. Into
the building.
Into the building. There was nothing. That's what I was doing. I was just getting up. You'll see me if you go on their website on the staff and the Chinatown. You'll see they had videos of me there. I'm just sitting there listening, and all of a sudden, we have this commotion, and I get up and go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I apologized to her. I sent her a beautiful apology through
Hyperallergic.
Yeah, I sent it to
the media company.
Hakeem. And they used it against me later on. They took a portion of it and put it into their online thing. I sent her a beautiful apology. I said, I'm sorry, whatever happened. It was inadvertent, and I wasn't, and they totally ignored it. In fact, so go on.
So then we briefly talked about the restaurant as well. And it seems like the protesters outside think that it was a community center of sorts.
Yeah,
that it
definitely.
was the biggest dim sum parlor in the entire East Coast, right?
That's probably
Could
true.
seat 1,000 people plus. So then what is it, do you think they think that the museum has to do with the shutting down of the restaurant?
It's the Chu family. They just hate the Chu family.
Yeah, why?
All right. So Jonathan's father, there was another unionized restaurant in Chinatown called the Silver Palace. And it was over where the now stands the 50 Bowery Hotel, which is also owned by the Chus. And for some reason, that particular restaurant, is back in the 1980 or so, before I even got here, it closed for whatever reason. I have no idea. But they hold the grudge that the Chu family destroyed the union there, and then they knocked down the building and built the hotel.
50 Bowery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that. So now we come to the dim sum Jingfong on Elizabeth. And COVID came. Of course, business was terrible.
Right.
I don't know any of the specifics. I know I was told that Jonathan gave them a year's free rent. But at some point, the Lam family, which owned the franchise, decided to leave. Now, they say that they didn't really decide to leave, that Jonathan forced them out. That's their contention. Okay, so, yeah, and it's just so odd that they would open up across the street. Because several of their waiters who work over there actively come over and protest before they go to do their luncheons.
I see. So the waiters there also sort of feel like they have a grudge against them.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But none of us have anything to do with it. I mean, nobody working in the building is involved with displacement or gentrification or racism. There's been I'm the face of sexism, I guess, because they were able to use that one touch as some kind of, leverage against the museum.
So then I guess I have more questions specifically about the Chu family, right? Jonathan Chu sits on the board of directors for the museum.
He was a co-director.
Got you. He was. So
he's been brutalized by this too. I mean, they've been.
When you say brutalized, you mean like they've been attacking him physically, or
no? But they've harassed his children, and there was a point where the owner of the building, whom I can't divulge who that is, but he is not Chinese, and I got together and we got involved with the local police because of the drumming. Now, they used to come out for a year and they would drum outside for 3 hours a day. And it drove the street crazy. And we were under so much pressure to come up with some solution because of the drumming. I mean, it was really obnoxious. So eventually they started getting summons from the police, and they were using amplification. And that's not allowed. And they got very upset with us because several of them got summons and they got their drums taken away. So there was that. And they blamed that on Jonathan and Nancy working with the police to harass workers and seniors. And that's all made up. I haven't harassed anybody. I have been harassed. And it was, well, anyway, and it was the owner and I who got the police involved. And I made all the official complaints. I'm the one on record with multiple complaints against them.
Gotcha. I see. I understand. So then, I guess from just my brief interview with them on Friday, it seems like they view this museum as a sort of false representative of the community, in the sense that where Jingfeng was a community center that shut down, and they see Jonathan Chu responsible for that.
Yes.
And then this was later created, right, this museum is now taking the grant from the de Blasio administration of the $35 million, and it is to soften the impact of the jail in Chinatown. They see this as a sort of sellout. This is at least when I was there on Friday, it seemed like their main complaint is that they feel Jonathan Chu and Nancy, I forget her name, Nancy Yao, took the $35 million grant and sold out Chinatown. Do you have any way to dispel that?
I don't understand why they would say that. I mean, we are totally open. We are a free museum now. I run it like a community center. We have several partners that give classes all over the building. We're open to anybody who wants to participate.
Sure.
And I've always, as an ex-performer, I mean, you're always inviting people in, so to speak. And that's what we've tried to do. I think they've just chosen to go the other direction. First of all, Chinatown is overlooked within the realm of the city. I mean, they don't get much respect. politically, they have very little impact, I think, until Gail Brewer stepped in and helped help this collaboration, so to speak. I think that they all thought they were doing the right thing, you know, and it just didn't. Other people didn't see it that way.
Nice.
Museum of Chinese in America. Good. Well, you know, I'm just sorry about the whole thing. I think it's been a totally wasted, where things could have been much more cohesive, because the plan is, and Nancy's plan always was to create a community space that everyone could be involved in. It was never to be an elitist space, even though the capitalistic way is the not-for-profit is that people donate money. I think, first of all, you know, many of them are communists, correct?
They're communists?
Absolutely. Yolanda Zhang is from China. She studied Marxism at McGill University. Then she came to New York. She is an avowed Marxist. Who else? Mahir Rahman. He's Pakistani. He was one of our initial thorn in the sides. He's Pakistani, so I don't know, but he's quite radical. If you go on his Facebook, you can see exactly what we're dealing with. Most of the core of the staff and workers union come from China, and are, which is
also incidentally where a lot of Chinatown comes from.
Well, of course, but as I said before, or maybe I didn't say, this particular museum is basically supported by Taiwanese, Hong Kongese, Singaporeans. They are supported by communities that were once free or are still free. And the people outside, they come from a different mind thinking. I don't think they understand the not-for-profit entity. And they are, you just ask them, the Jahai Simpkins, who is actually a Columbia graduate, she's an avowed communist, even though her parents are immensely wealthy. They're both investment bankers. These are the people I first had to interact with. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And then, so just one last question, if you will. Thank you so much for the time. The idea that the grant sort of served to soften the blow, that's also one of the key points of contestation, right? They sort of see it as the grant was a way of, let's say, disenfranchising Chinatown, in the sense that now increasingly, because the city has given money to a community center, right? They contest that too.
Sure.
Now they feel like the community actually has less of a say in whether or not the city will put up the jail. Do you have any way of dispelling that?
I don't think that's well.
That's, I think, also why the protest is happening here, because they see it as part and parcel of the jail.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that's how they feel. The jail, this is the Southern District of Manhattan. We are the most powerful court system in the country. There has to be some kind of unit to hold people coming in for their appearances. Now, the jail, this jail was, well, you need to read this book. Sorry. I have this book right here. It's always been a horror show. All of them been a horror show. I just finished this. And this is talking about the history of Rikers. De Blasio had hopes to close Rikers, but I don't think that will ever happen. And the history of abuse and conflict out there is, well, if you read this book, it's staggering. There has been a jail down there since 1735, 100 years before the Asians moved into the area. I mean, and I believe that there should be some kind of jail there. I just don't, I think the size that they're talking about is far too large. I just think it's far too large, you know. Totally. They should be more reasonable. And yes, that's all I know. Look, this is my opinion. I'm just an employee here. I'm a facilities manager. I have nothing to do with the politics. I've been drawn into it by accidentally touching a girl on her back during a rally, you know, with people screaming at me. And I was trying to be reasonable. And I reached out to her, tried to make my apology heartfelt, and they chose to go the other direction. And they turned this personal, and that's why I'm still here. Everyone else is gone. But in my thinking, there's no way I'm going to.
As in they don't.
They've been intimidated, and they're not as involved as they should be in coming to a resolution.
I see.
They need to come to a resolution with this.
Well, thank you.
I don't think that's the thing. I don't think that we have sold out Chinatown at all. I know everybody involved, and nobody is taking that view. We're taking the view as this is going to be an improvement for the community, will be a great resource down the way, and I dream of seeing hundreds of children coming through those doors, you know. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oof. I haven't had that interview.